Today on the show, it's NFL free agency frenzy, big-time trades all over the damn place. We'll break them all down and tell you the big winners and losers across the NFL.
And we'll be talking Bigfoot with Rictor Riolo of the Spike TV $10 million Bigfoot bounty.
Plus, a big-time NFL star gets attacked by a dog, and some racist chants caused big problems for a University of Oklahoma fraternity. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 45 of the Sean and Bo Show. Sean O'Donnell, joined as always by my co-host, Bo Greer. Bo, so many NFL trades happening this afternoon. My computer started to smoke.
Yeah, it's just getting crazy. It's that time of year we all crave because we feel we all just need one more piece to win that championship.
And there were some big-time pieces being moved across the NFL. We're going to break it all down in the second segment. But we're going to start off the show with some sanctions brought down by the NCAA on Coach Boeheim and Syracuse. Lots of violations, in fact. According to ESPN, the NCAA said that the violations, which were self-reported by Syracuse back in 2001, included academic misconduct, extra benefits, failure to follow the drug testing policy, and impermissible booster activity. Jesus.
Yeah, it's one of those things we all have to sit back and say, it's still the NCAA. They still want to know if college kids are smoking pot, and they still want you to self-investigate, whatever that means. To this day, I don't understand.
So kids were getting money for appearing to volunteer for the YMCA? What the hell?
Yeah, well, you got to give these kids money. A lot of these kids come out of economic situations that do not allow them to be somewhere where they're not earning a living for themselves.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that's just the way of the world.
That's a no-no.
Yeah, and now you look at these situations and you say, oh, yeah, those were those years. He had all those one-and-dones coming through there. Syracuse was hot, and you're like, is this Kentucky in 10? Just fast forward. Is this Kentucky in 10 years? Yes, it is. We know it is. We know that we see a ton of NBA talent on one team. They are stacked. Everybody handling the basketball 6'7" and up. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I can only imagine what it's like to be a basketball coach because, see, as a football coach, I deal with a lot of young men who have, I don't know, they crawl their way up. They work the job, bagging groceries, delivering pizzas. But basketball players, by 8th grade, if you're 6'9", there's some guy that is like a shady used car salesman in your town that's buying you Jordans and telling you when you're 16 you can have any car off the lot.
Yeah.
It's just this different world. So how do you even recruit those kids without saying, oh, yeah, some like you got to remember this. Basketball, Division I basketball, a kid could go play at some little Catholic school in Boston that we've never heard of and will never play on TV, all because the money's right. And he won't even go talk to Syracuse because he can stay in the hood. He's got Shorty down the road, and he's going to get a fat Range Rover. So that's what you're competing with at this level with those guys.
As far as penalties go, Boeheim is suspended for 9 ACC games. They took away 12 scholarships and vacated 108 wins. By the way, does that ever mean anything, vacating wins?
No, because they'll get them back. Even Joe Paterno got his back.
Yeah, but more importantly, if you're a fan of Syracuse, you watch those games. You know who won.
Yeah.
It's in the past at this point.
It's one of those things that the NCAA does that you just wonder as an organization, what is your goal? Like I said, remember, people, they want to know if college kids are smoking pot. You don't have to have a drug test to know that. Just walk through your local community college and take a big whiff of the air. You know what's going on over there in the student union building. You're not stupid.
Apparently, according to this report, they're pretty much just missing drug tests accidentally on the reg,
Yeah.
This was standard operating procedure. If you're going to piss dirty, don't show up, I guess.
Yeah, because Boeheim, he's been at that university for 50 plus years, and he's like, man, there's this kid who's supposedly some mathematician. He smells like reefer all day, and I don't see you guys making him piss in a cup, but I got a bunch of kids who made this university $18 million when they made it to the Sweet 16 off of our revenue and our TV deals. So why are we piss testing them?
It's mathism, Bo.
Yeah, it is. It's straight mathism.
Well, like I was saying, the other part of the allegation was that a booster provided more than $8,000 in cash to 3 football players and 2 men's basketball students for volunteering at a local YMCA, in addition to basketball staff members who also got cash money for various appearances and assistances.
Whoever came out
Insane.
and said that was a hater. Like
A hater?
If you don't know that that's not going on, you think
They hate the Village people.
you think that any time as a college athlete, I spoke to children, I went somewhere and volunteered time. You think there wasn't a guy in the back that told me, "Hey, Bo, come over and do this. I'll give you $50." Because every college kid needs $50. And if it was $50 in New Mexico, on the East Coast, it should be about $350 with inflation and how much they have to pay for rent.
And you've told this story before on the podcast, but to bring it back up, you once said that like they would organize these quote unquote team activities, which would sometimes like involve just picking up trash around University Stadium, and then magically at the end of the day, you'd be lining up to do what?
Get your money in an envelope, because they knew the NCAA rules stated that if we were there past a certain amount of time and they couldn't physically cook us a meal and feed us, they could give us the money for that meal. And obviously, any time that we received money, we were going to eat prime rib and expensive baked potatoes. You know, it was going to be the most expensive meal you could think. So they could shovel $75 to $120 in our pocket.
Which I'm sure actually made it to
Yeah, that wasn't
spend
food
on
money.
food. Yeah.
Shoot, it's like, let's get some kegs. I will meet you guys at my house in 3 hours.
Yo, call up that sorority, tell them it's going down.
No, see, and when we get to the OU thing, I didn't run with those guys. And I'll tell you why when we get to that story.
Okay, well, for Boeheim's part, he released a statement saying, quote, "I am disappointed with many of the findings and conclusions as stated in the infractions report. The committee chose to ignore the efforts which I have undertaken over the past 37 years to promote an atmosphere of compliance within the men's basketball program. Instead, they chose to focus on the rogue and secretive actions of a former employee of the local YMCA and my former director of basketball operations in order to impose an unprecedented series of penalties upon the university and the men's basketball program."
Yeah. You know what's pretty messed up about that? Because the last time I checked, the YMCA is an entity that makes money, because I have a membership there. I take my kids. They've played in basketball leagues. It costs like $225 for a family a year. If I went there and asked for a job and I spent 6 hours, they would pay me for that time. The money would be so low that I would qualify, as far as the government's concerned, as one of those paid volunteer types.
Yeah.
It always burns me up when a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old kids who were probably in charge of some sort of basketball camp for this guy are getting in trouble, and a university's getting in trouble because they probably paid them $300 for working a camp on the weekend. It's a mess, people.
Well, you know, it's one of those situations where we're not really debating whether the rule is right or wrong, but rather if they violated the rule.
Mm-hmm.
And Boeheim is, you know, too old and wise not to know exactly what was going on and that he was in fact in violation. So that statement of his, I think, is going to bite him in the ass when it comes time for an appeal, because he's not showing any contrition. He's not saying, oh, okay, you got me, because after all, this was all self-reported. Instead, he's, you know, once again kind of challenging the NCAA and making it seem like they're out to get him.
Yeah.
And that's not what's going on here.
Yeah, he violated the rule.
And this is nothing new for Boeheim. So
No.
finally bit him in the butt.
Yeah, he got that championship when he made the deal with the devil that is Carmelo Anthony, and he's been paying for it ever since.
Well-
It just hasn't seemed the same. Like, ever since Carmelo Anthony, that organization that I grew up, the big scary Syracuse of the Big East, which no longer exists for you young children out there, that was a great basketball conference. I don't have the same feeling when I watch Syracuse. And you just look at these one-and-done schools, and you wonder, like I said, Kentucky basketball, is that the road they're going down? Are they going to be like Syracuse in 10 years?
Well, Niners and Eagles fans are licking their wounds regarding NFL free agency, which we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. But I think somebody had an even worse few days than those fan bases, and that is Mississippi State quarterback Dak Prescott, who, along with defensive end Torrey Dale and wide receiver Damian Williams, were jumped. They were jumped at a concert in Panama City, Florida, during spring break festivities. Prescott reportedly suffered facial cuts after being hit with a bottle, and interestingly enough, did not go to the hospital and did not want to press charges. Apparently what happened here, according to Damian Williams, the wide receiver, he said, "We got jumped for no reason." Yeah. "It's sad that we can't go anywhere without being attacked by people." You buying that statement, Bo?
No, I'm not buying it. I've been to spring break. I told you about the time when I was in South Texas and Vince Young and all the Texas guys were there. There's guys from Texas A&M, UTEP, University of New Mexico. Every school within 500 miles was at spring break. And it went off without a hitch because at that time, nobody tried to one-up anyone. My crew, when we rolled heavy. There was no miscommunication with what we had in the trunk of the car.
Baked potatoes.
I went to Mexico, people in college with a crew full of teammates. Apparently, the cartel was having issues with the DEA. They didn't have issues with us while we were down there. Everybody was like, "You guys went down there?" I didn't have problems. Listen, if you know how to act like a human being and don't go into every situation trying to be the alpha dog, guess what? You'll escape with no wounds. But I can imagine Dak having a big year. It's SEC country, Panama City Beach, another place I rented a condo for a week of spring break. It was a great one.
Tell me about those stories later.
Yeah, you got to hear those. You can't be down there acting like the top dog, even when you deal with the sheriff, which I've had to deal with in Panama City. If you go to him and, "Yes, sir, hey, officer, this is what's going on," you're going to get to go. You're going to get a pass. But if you're that guy that's like, F the police, you guys can't tell me anything, guess what? You're going to be on ESPN in the morning and your coach will be calling you like, "What are you doing down there?" Some guys just will never understand who they are and know how to operate in these situations. And that's why he got whooped.
So a source told Brooks Roberts of Bulldog Sports Radio, quote, "All we could see due to a gathering crowd was what appeared to be Dak and the other players being surrounded/kicked and jumped by a large number of folks. No clue of the instigator or why it happened, just know that it did. Dak was kicked and took a bottle to the face and some punches. Damian Williams, who was also involved, had a bloody mouth from the altercation." Now, Bo, you and I saw this video.
Yeah.
And I would say that Dak either got concussed by like a steel folding chair or perhaps, just perhaps, there may have been some substances involved.
That man was on a bender.
I mean,
I'm not even going to say, because I know what alcohol looks like after 7 hours of drinking. That right there was a mixture of like alcohol, a little THC, and some Molly. Like, he couldn't stand upright.
Yeah, he tries to get up off the ground and like falls
Yeah.
immediately back down on his face.
Like, he ate some shrooms or something. Like, my man could not find that equilibrium to stand. He's just off teeter-tottering the whole time. So
he thought he was being attacked by Jameis Winston and a group of giant crab people.
well, that's what was funny about it is you see all these dudes run up on him and the fight takes off, and then there's another group that comes running in. Mississippi State, Bulldog Nation, I'm sorry, but you guys, I think I can go get all my 30-something brothers that I played football with and we could squab with Mississippi State if that's all you guys got. I'm sorry. Whenever a fight broke out with one of my buddies on the football team, we were all in like a bunch of dogs. And I'm sorry. That was pitiful. Your quarterback, if my quarterback was in a parking lot getting, man, they would have had to call in the National Guard. They'd been like, Bo is over here on top of a car with a chainsaw and a shotgun, and he's telling the local police to stand down. I'm serious. You would not attack my
painting your
quarterback.
face with blood.
Yeah, you would not attack my quarterback like that. And that O-line coach, Mississippi State, I'll give you my email. I need to talk to your men about what their duties are in the offseason. He doesn't need to be throwing punches. He needs to be throwing footballs right now.
No joke. Well, speaking of injuries, Jadeveon Clowney has suffered a out-of-season injury, and it's not like his past injuries. No, this one involved a teammate's dog.
Dude, hey, Jadeveon Clowney can't even get insurance. I would not insure that man. He is just a walking accident.
I told you not to wear that bacon-scented cologne, Jadeveon. Come on, man.
Oh, I'm laughing here because it's since that ESPN article, Next, it's like one curse after another. My man is still, to this day, that big hit against the Michigan guy. That's what he is to me. He hasn't done anything.
So apparently this dog belonged to teammate DJ Swearinger, and according to reports from CBS Houston, the incident occurred in the early morning hours of March 4th. Nothing good ever happens in the early morning hours. And his dog, Swearinger's dog, broke the skin on the right arm of Clowney with a bite, according to the report. Further investigation by the agency indicated the dog's vaccinations are good, so he's not going to get rabies. That's good. Was characterized by Sports Radio 610 as a minor bite, although Clowney still went to the ER.
So you know who J.J. Watt's new buddy's going to be? Jadeveon Clowney. The owner, GMs, coaches. JJ got text after call, and he's up there in his cabin trying to recreate Rocky VI all by himself in the mountains. JJ Watt probably grew another neck since the time that football has ended to now. And they're like, so, Jadeveon, what are you doing right now? I'm up at 4 a.m. playing with pit bulls. JJ, what are you doing right now? Well, I just found out that if you chop trees all day and then eat and take a nap, you can work out an extra 12 hours. JJ found 12 more hours in the day to work out. Like, that's what this man does. Jadeveon, you were in the same locker room with him. If you were too stupid to walk over to Mr. Watt, shake his hand and say, I am at your disposal. I am here to mimic you because right now you have a lot of money and you're very respected. And me, I'm a joke. I'm a laughing stock. I hate watching these situations, Sean, because as you grow older, you realize the people who get it, they usually get it day one. And becoming an adult doesn't make you more conservative or change who you are. It just makes you realize that the bullshitters are always going to be bullshitting.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it's been too long. He's been in the league and he's getting bit by dogs at Fort Pit Bulls. Man, I'm sorry. If I'm worth that much money, your pit bull can't be in the same room as me. It doesn't make sense that this is happening. It's child play. He should still be at South Carolina if he's playing with dogs at 4 a.m.
Did I ever, you know, I'm a big dog lover, Bo.
No, I love dogs too.
But pit bulls still make me just a little anxious. Did I ever tell you this story about when I was a little kid?
I think you mentioned something about that.
I don't know if we talked about it on the air or not. I was like probably 12, 13 years old. I had just been fishing all day long. It was the summertime, and fishing all day long down in the river there. And I was going over to one of my best friend's houses. They had gotten a pit bull, real sweet dog, about a week ago. I'd met the dog several times. But the dog didn't recognize me carrying a tackle box and a fishing rod. So I go into my friend's yard, and this dog just locks onto my right tricep.
Goodness.
I mean, right here. I have my fishing rod in the other hand, so I literally had to beat this pit bull off of me with the blunt end of the fishing rod. Mm-hmm. And that dog took you could feel the missing chunk in my tricep until I was like 14, 15 years old.
Goodness.
When those dogs lock on, it is not fun. So good for Clowney that it was only kind of a superficial wound.
Yeah.
That could have been bad if he takes out a big hunk of muscle.
My experience, pit bulls and collies are just terrible. Growing up in the country, rural setting, a lot of those animals are the ones that are in chicken coops trying to eat your chickens and doing bad stuff. Collies, yes, they're great. Herd dogs, sheep, cattle, whatever. But, man, I had this guy I worked for. His collie took the GMC emblem off the side of one of my trucks, just latched onto it going like 20 mile an hour down a dirt road and just ripped it off. And I'm just like, and then there was a guy that owned a junkyard that had a bunch of pit bulls. These dogs could never be trusted. You couldn't get to know them. You couldn't go near them. They would eventually attack you. So, no, I see where you're coming
I just want to
from.
make it clear. We're not bad-mouthing pit bulls because I do think they're great dogs. Unfortunately, they are a breed that tends to get raised by absolute knuckleheads that bring out the worst characteristics in them.
Yes. For some reason, every dope dealer wants to get a pit bull. If they were smart, they would get the same dog the Popo have. I've always said, if you're protecting something, get some German Shepherds.
Yeah. You don't mess with the German Shepherd.
No, German Shepherds. What did Hitler have when he almost conquered the world? German Shepherds. You should have German Shepherds on your property.
Be more like Hitler, says Bo Greer.
Hey, all I'm saying is that dog was a part of a group that tried to conquer the world. There may be something in the bloodline.
Well, speaking of being more like Hitler, a University of Oklahoma fraternity got into some big-time trouble over this last week, Bo. What happened?
You can just call me Segway, by the way. That's perfect. University of Oklahoma proves to many African-American athletes and, people in the communities that know and have been to these frat parties and seen this goes on. University of Oklahoma, SAE, if you've heard the chant. Everybody's seen the video. I don't need to repeat it. They have been suspended by their national organization, and the University of Oklahoma has suspended the two that were viewed in the video leading the chant.
Kicked them out.
Kicked them out. They're
Expelled.
They're expelled. But my problem is there's a whole bus full of people there. I don't know what's going on. It sounded like there was more than two people chanting on that bus. Yep. And I was telling you about a little bit of the history that I read here. It was a disturbing history when it comes to this SAE organization. I believe that is, Sigma Alpha Epsilon.
Correct.
They were founded in Alabama in 1856.
Huh, what was going on back then, Bo?
I don't know. I believe a man like myself couldn't own property and I had a job in the fields. I'm not for sure.
Is there a little skirmish going on nationally?
Yeah, something called the Civil War.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Well, of their 400 members of the time, some 393 of them joined the Confederacy, and the ones that were left, it was 7, joined the Union. And
good numbers.
Things really haven't changed a lot since then. I would imagine if somebody can get a hold of their national numbers to find out how many blacks or Latinos or Jewish members there may be, I'm betting that it's less than 1%. But that being said, I'm going to tell you, and I wish this was already, we were on Fox or ESPN because I could tell every recruit this, and the University of New Mexico in the Mountain West will love me. I was recruited by different schools in different regions, had the opportunity to meet different coaches and different student bodies. And let me tell you something, people. There's a reason why a guy with my voice, and I'm a rural guy, country boy, I would like to be in the South of the Midwest. Yeah, I love growing corn. It's cool stuff, tobacco, it's awesome. But I'm out here at the University of New Mexico because it was the first recruiting trip I went on. And we didn't go to some frat party or to some bar or to some house party where there was a group of Caucasian frat boys that basically would tell us they don't want us there because they believe the athletes are just on a free ride, and it's usually rooted in racism. You would see these fights almost break out. University of Indiana, I remember one vividly. I was on a recruiting trip there, and a fight almost breaks out between frat boys and the university football players. And I'm thinking to myself, this old Jim Crow, Uncle Tom's Cabin, 1903 stuff, I'm through with it. I know it exists, but I'm done with it. I came out here to the University of New Mexico, and the biggest problem they had was making sure I understood what red or green chili was. And you see that, and I hope that there are athletes out there that are being recruited by these good old boy schools, these SEC schools, Big 12 schools. Give a Mountain West school a chance. Come out west, go to Pac-12, because I guarantee you will be shocked when you find out how different people will treat you, how they'll look you in the eye, and you're not just some jock playing football. You're a student athlete, and that's all I'm saying about it.
Well, see you later, University of Oklahoma chapter of Sigma Alpha Epsilon. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. You will not be missed. Coming up, Revis, Sue, Graham, Foles, Bradshaw, the list goes on and on. NFL free agency madness. We're going to break down all the big deals and talk about who are the big winners and losers in terms of NFL teams. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey, thank you very much for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. Do us a favor this week. Share the show on Facebook. Tell your friends about the show. You got to have some other friends that are into sports, and check out how easy it is to do this. You don't have to remember any links, type anything out. Just go to seanandboshow.podomatic.com and click share on the little Facebook icon. You'll be doing us a huge favor and helping the show.
Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go ahead and just say what it is. Let's tackle this thing that is NFL free agency. It's big, and we just got to dive right in. A lot of speculation. What's going on, Sean?
Bo, it's so big that the NFL wants teams to keep their phone records because there is so much playing beyond the rule book, you might say. They're investigating several teams for infringing on the level playing field of the 3-day negotiation period before free agency starts. And they have sent memos to several teams earlier today telling them to hold on to all their phone records because they're going to be taking a look at whether or not they broke the rules.
You know, for one moment, I've never doubted that the whole, when we get information that says, oh, this player here, player X, player Y is going to sign with this team, or he's flying in to talk with the GM today. That has to be all agents. I always say that comes from their camp, because if I had a product and I wanted that product to be, valued at the highest I could get, whatever I could get for it, the most money that day, I'm going to put one team against another team to think you're going to lose this product. And I've never doubted any of these NFL teams or thought that there may be some, spying going on or people bending the rules, because NFL agents, they have to have contacts with ESPN, Fox. They have to be calling these people and saying, my guy's going over here. You better sign him quick. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, Pro Football Talk obtained the copy of the memo which was sent out to these teams. It said, you are reminded that the purpose of the 3-day negotiation period is to create a level playing field in the competition for unrestricted free agents by permitting clubs to express interest in a prospective UFA and to exchange information with certified agents regarding the level of compensation envisioned by the club and the agent. Any attempts to undermine the purpose of this negotiating period may be considered conduct detrimental to the league.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think it happens all the damn time, but apparently the NFL is a little sick of it.
Yeah, and it may be one agent that doesn't have as much juice as another agency going at them. Well, I'll show him. I can't get to the guys at ESPN, but I'll go to the league office and show them how you're playing. That's all it is.
So the dam really broke this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern time. As I was sitting in front of my computer, refreshing Twitter feverishly, I was thinking to myself, I should be in some sort of bomb shelter. There are so many trades going on today, and this segment is going to be a bit of a mess because that's exactly what it is, a damn mess. So many moves. So without further ado, let's get cranked up on this. The first shoe to fall, so to speak, was the Sue deal.
Yeah.
Sue to Miami. Wow, what a contract. 6 years, $114 million with $60 million guaranteed money. $60 million.
And what a town to have that kind of money in.
No state income tax.
Ugh.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about all those things walking up and down South Beach and the fact that you can buy Ferraris and Lamborghinis at local dealers in that town. Oh, I'd just love to have that money in Miami. Ooh.
Now, Watt, who was previously the highest paid defensive player, I remember after he got his money, he bought his mom a car and immediately showed up to the facility at 3 a.m. to lift weights. But I wonder how, as a player, do you react that way when you get 40, 60, whatever it is, million guaranteed money, win, lose, or draw?
Yeah, JJ, he had to go work out because that's what he does. Other guys, I imagine they all have their own process. We were sitting here off the air speculating, what do you have to do to yourself to make yourself get out of bed and remain as hungry as you were when you first put on football pads in youth football? You're paid now. The first few million, yeah, you got some money, but you knew one bad weekend in Vegas, a bad marriage, a bad investment, you could lose that money. But now you have staying power. You have that kind of money that even when you make a bad decision in a real estate company, guess what? Uncle Sam's going to come in with some lawyers, file you Chapter 11. You'll have to give him a couple million, but we'll let you retain that other 28. You're good. This is the American dream. And all I would say to these young men, number one, please give us something to talk about in the summer. No. Number two, let's think about this. 40, 60 million bucks. Car, house. Do you buy an entertainment company, a club, a restaurant? Me? You know what I'm doing? I'm buying a farm. I'm taking that money. I'm buying tons of beef. I would have so much beef. And the reason I say that, I look at these guys, my wife, she's in the food business. She's had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Frank himself, Mr. Hot Links himself, running back of the Houston Oilers. You know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Who sells sausages like no other. Is that national? Do guys on the East Coast get that? They probably don't even know he sells hot links.
I don't know. I don't know if they get that in New York.
Huh. And then you got like Nolan Ryan, who owns the Texas Rangers. They say Nolan Ryan owns over like 900,000 head of cattle or something like that. He makes enough beef patties and hot dogs to supply the stadium in which his baseball team plays for like 100 years. It's crazy. So if I do get that money, Sean,
invariably we always bring it back to food in some way.
I know people eat like I do. They have to eat 3 times a day. Some of us like to eat 6 and even go for that 7th meal late at night. You know what I'm talking about.
What would your ranch be called, Bo?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. We ain't just growing them here. That's what I'd say, because you know I'm eating them too. We ain't just growing them here. Big old sign on the road.
Okay, so back to this Sue deal. Did the Dolphins overpay or worth it for that level of talent? What's your take on that?
Tannehill, that offense, we saw flashes of what could be a playoff team. This could be the one that puts them over. I really think Sue has that much impact. We've seen this with other teams. The biggest problem with the Dolphins, it's what they're going to do in the draft. Yes, you have Sue, but are you going to go out and sign a bunch of receivers you don't need? Are you going to resign another running back you don't need? No, go get offensive linemen. Make sure you have staying power.
Well, those Florida teams always seem to have trouble filling the seats. So, I mean, you bring in a big name like Sue, and I don't think you're going to have too much trouble getting people to come watch him stomp people.
Well, and yeah, they always come for the first 2 games. That's the problem. Dolphins are always good. The Dolphins are so good at beating the Pats first that Vegas will actually make the Pats the underdog in that game. But after about game 3, nobody's watching the Dolphins anymore because they're not even showing up.
So Sue obviously not playing for the Lions anymore, but they kind of replaced him. Earlier today, we got the news that Elodie Nada was going to be going to Detroit.
Yeah.
Now, this is a guy that probably doesn't have too many years left in his career, but I could see him, easily playing at a high level for, 3-4 years, Bo?
And this is Caldwell. I mean, what did you expect? A guy that studies under Dungy. He's a part of the wins at Indianapolis, and he's over in Baltimore. He knows what he's doing, and it does not surprise me at all that the former offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens goes and gets a guy from the Baltimore Ravens. As we know, this is just a business, and they're all family and colleagues. So if you liked working with that guy, you respected him in that locker room, bring him into this locker room and show these boys how to win Super Bowls.
And speaking of the Ravens, wide receiver Torrey Smith is now a member of the San Francisco 49ers. He signed a 5-year, $40 million deal, $22 million of which guaranteed. Geez, I mean, we're going to talk about this in just a few minutes, the big-time winners and losers of free agency at this point. But, I mean, what I'm hearing from the Niners, lots of people retiring, lots of people getting traded, and they get a wide receiver, and I read they're interested in pursuing Reggie Bush.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What the hell's going on over there? You look at where they were just a few years back with Harbaugh. It seemed like they're on the precipice of a title, and now... wow, what a mess.
It's the Niners. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm not mad. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other people in the Bay Area, Oakland. You guys aren't mad either, because we all knew as long as Harbaugh stuck around, everybody had to contend with the Niners in the NFC. Everybody within earshot or considered him a rival had to contend with them. Now that he's gone, let that GM and ownership lay waste to what was for another flash in a decade a respectable program. It's gone. This franchise, it's going to fall right back into the cellar.
Well, you bring up Big D. Free agency, we could really use a few spindles of yarn and several cork boards because everything's interrelated. Yeah. And when we got the news that Frank Gore was not, in fact, going to go to Philadelphia, but rather signed with the Colts, all of a sudden, Philadelphia needs a running back, and who do the Cowboys have that's probably not going to be sticking around there? DeMarco Murray.
Yeah.
So that news hasn't broke yet, but I'm saying DeMarco Murray probably to the Eagles.
And, when you've brought that up on the show, when people have talked about that to me, I'm not scared. You can take DeMarco Murray away from the Cowboys, and we are going to be productive.
No, you're right there. It's a much better problem to have a great offensive line in place
Yes.
and a mediocre running back than a great running back and a mediocre offensive line. You can live with a great offensive line. You can find those pieces.
Yeah, and that's what people are forgetting. When was the first time Tom Brady actually was quoted by a reporter being upset with New England Patriots management? It was when you got rid of the men protecting him. We, for years, sit here scratching our heads after they win a Super Bowl, after they go to an AFC championship. They just got rid of 4 receivers, a cornerback, and a safety? What are the Patriots doing? Well, they kept winning. That's what they were doing. But the minute they got rid of a lineman, Tom Brady was flustered. The offense wasn't the same. What are the Patriots going to do? They just went and won a Super Bowl. If you forgot about that, that's what they did.
They also just got rid of Wilfork.
Yes, they got rid of Wilfork, so that's going to change for them. And that's what I'm saying. Let me keep Zach Martin. Let me keep the guys that either pressure the quarterback or protect the quarterback. Because your wide receivers and running backs, I play fantasy football. Every week, there's a different group of you guys that do something amazing. And it makes me, I can sleep easy at night knowing that we can replace you. Des Bryant, I don't feel the same. He's a special talent that only comes around every once in a while. But there's just those other guys. Cole Beasley, now the rich man's Wes Welker. He could be replaced. You can replace that guy, but he's a team player. He does the right thing, and that's why he's getting paid.
Packers are doing all right. Randall Cobb staying in town there. So
yeah, Brian Beluga, another guy, lineman, being re-signed. Those are the teams you don't worry about because they do the important things. You have Aaron Rodgers' right arm. You make sure Aaron Rodgers can step into a throw. You make sure he has Randall Cobb who understands him when the play breaks down where to get to in a zone or a man. That's what you do. And I'm not worried about DeMarco Murray. I see teams like the Eagles, what would they do? Bradford for Foles.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second because this one really made me scratch my head.
Yeah.
Okay, you got Foles going to the Rams for Bradford and a couple of draft picks. Now, Bradford has apparently legs made out of paper. He's had, 2 ACLs, can't stay healthy. It seemed like Foles fit into Chip Kelly's system really well. I just don't understand this. This seems like a bad move for Philadelphia.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I know that they want Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota, the offense at Oregon was designed for him. It went to Philadelphia. Therefore, this offense is designed for him. It needs to happen.
And that situation doesn't even make any sense. So you have Bradford, Mark Sanchez now returning to Philadelphia, and you're going to get Mariota?
See, this is where I want to be a fly on the wall in these rooms because we don't get to see the film. These NFL scouts, GMs, and coaches, you better believe they all have film via Sam Bradford's agent, his money man, whoever it is, because the only thing Sam Bradford has to cling on to is tape right now of him working out. There's not a lot of game film on that young man. Or is he one of these guys that the league and the GMs and the scouts are all telling us, oh, man, don't pass on Sam Bradford. He's going to get healthy. This guy still got it. He may. I don't know, but I also know this: if he does present any type of value, whatever Chip needs to get over the top to get Mariota, whether that's cap space or to give somebody a potential quarterback, he's going to use Sam Bradford because we always know there are half the teams in the league that do not have that man at that position, and they are all willing to risk whatever it is to get the guy they think that's going to win the playoff game.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's assume the Eagles managed to trade up and draft Mariota. I guess he would be your number one. Who then would be your number two? Is it Sanchez? Are you just going to make Bradford the teacher? Like, what?
That's the tough one. That because he can't, with Bradford's problems, you don't put him in that offense where he has to run around. Foles did it. He looked awkward doing it, but Foles to this date has done that offense the best. He's ran it the best. They've been the most successful with Foles. So it can be done with a guy like Bradford. I'm just not that confident giving his history to be running those knees around in the out,
like I was saying, it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't.
Like Foles is a younger, more injury-free Bradford,
Who did I compare Chip Kelly too, just a week ago, Jimmy Johnson. Nothing Jimmy did during the Herschel Walker trade ever made sense. It never made sense. That's why these guys scare me, because
They know something we don't.
Yes,
Yeah.
they know something you and I don't. And everybody else is still playing that game of, oh, we're going to get Jimmy Graham. Oh, we're going to get Cromartie or whoever, Revis, This guy over here, he went and got a quarterback with 2 busted knees, traded the guy that's been the most successful in his offense away to a team that we know in the Rams and Jeff Fisher with Foles, they could be a huge threat to the NFC next year. What's going on? I don't know.
Well, it's like I was telling my buddy Barstool Jordy, who covers Philadelphia. I told him earlier, go get your musket and head down to the Liberty Bell before Kelly decides to trade that too, because we don't know what the hell's going on.
We don't. And is there some guy out there that he thinks, it could be someone else. We're so fixed on Mariota. For all we know, it could be Baylor's quarterback. It could be some kid we're not even talking about right now. We don't know. He's just making a lot of moves. He's acquiring draft picks, and he's clearing cap space. Something big's going on in Philly.
Probably the biggest trade in terms of immediate impact that I saw happen today is Jimmy Graham going to the Seahawks. Jesus.
Who's your winner in that one?
The Seahawks?
Yeah.
I mean, immediately. I'm talking this next year. You know how scary he's going to be with that offense? He is the piece that offense has missed.
I don't see that, though. I don't see that. Their deep threat is what they miss.
Yeah, but when you have Wilson running around the pocket making some crazy throw, Graham can be the one that will leap up there and get it.
Isn't that their tight end's name currently, Luke Wilson?
Yeah.
That's what I can't understand. That guy is gritty. That young man, he emerged this year. I know it's Luke Wilson.
Is it?
No, it's Luke Wilson. You got to look that
Seahawks?
up. Seahawks tight end. He's gritty, and he emerged this year.
Yeah. Okay, you're right.
And I'm just thinking, I'm scratching my head. Unless they do double tight set, they're a power formation.
Right.
That makes sense. But you think you can get somebody cheaper, stay with the model that built the Seahawks to where they are now, defense, average offense. I just feel Jimmy Graham and the read option. The read option, you have to do things. And Jimmy Graham was never that enforcer as a blocker to me. He's a big receiver. That's what he is. He's a big receiver.
I look forward to seeing Graham's hair and Russell Wilson's hair on the same team.
Oh, yeah, that'll be nice. That will be. But I think Max Unger going to the Saints, that's going to work out great for them.
It's like we talked about, it's never a bad idea to bring in those big bodies.
Yep.
You can never get enough of those. So Graham to the Seahawks, I think that's a huge move. The last major trade that happened today was Revis going to the Jets, going back home to the Jets. Bo, this is insane to me. 5-year deal, $70 million, $40 million guaranteed. That seems like a horrible idea for the Jets.
No, it is, and that's what they do. That's why Ryan leaves.
It's like the Patriots pranked them by propping Revis up this last year to make them believe that he can still play at that level. I mean, forget 5 years. I've got doubts about 2 years from now.
That's why Rex Ryan got another rebuild job, because anybody in the league, they know the history of the Jets. They know what they like to do, and you can't base Rex Ryan's first stint as a head coach on the Jets. It's just not fair. If you're going to give this man 5 years, $40 million, and you have just come off the season that you just came off, the Jets front office, you don't have a clue on how to win football games. I've given up on you. And I can't believe that this new young man from, Arizona Cardinals, right? He's a defensive coordinator, I believe. He's their new coach. He is going to be in and out quick. He will be one of those young men that will be eaten by the New York media storm. If there was an over-under right now or some sort of prop bet I could put of what coach doesn't make it through the season in the NFL, I'm going for the Jets head coach.
And there are probably a dozen other, fair to middling trades that happened today that, we can't get into all these. It's insane. And there's going to be more tomorrow. This is a crazy week for the NFL.
And there's a ton of speculation out there still. Some of these things that I hear people talk about that sound like done deals, by the time you wake up, it's going in a different direction.
And bouncing back to this Graham trade for a second, how the hell are Seahawks have enough cap space to make this happen? Because don't they have to pay Wilson?
And see, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I don't know what's going on.
Doesn't seem to add up.
I know they dropped a defensive lineman that had a big part of his contract coming up. He was a long-term player. They did clear some cap space. I just think it's funny that these teams are getting offensive heavy. And you see it. The guys that wrote the book on defense are all of a sudden in this modern age going to get all heavy on the offensive side. People, wake up. Get over yourselves and quit thinking that scoring more touchdowns is the only way to win football games. You need to get some stops too.
All right, I'm going to make one bold prediction, Bo. If DeMarco Murray leaves Big D, you're getting Adrian Peterson in the next week.
Yeah. And DeMarco Murray, you better listen to Des Bryant. He tweeted out, go there if you want and wait and see and watch what happens. It's one of those things where he puts LOL after it, but I guarantee that was a sinister gangster laugh.
It's hard to sound gangster when you type out LOL.
I know. I just don't think – I think that was kind of, I better keep this cordial because I may have to work with the guy. But really, if DeMarco Murray lands in the NFC East, that's going to be one brutal reunion.
Eagles or the Redskins. I could see either. And he might make more sense in the Redskins because we know that Chip Kelly offense, he doesn't utilize, a speed back. I mean, at best, I think DeMarco Murray would turn into a third down back, and that's kind of underutilizing the talent that is Murray.
Yeah, he has to go somewhere where we need to get this guy 25 carries a game. He's going to be a focal point of the offense. And unfortunately, I watch a lot of NFL ball. The guys who do that, they already have teams, and a lot of them have deals. Good luck, DeMarco. You may find yourself in a situation where you are not as featured as you were for the Cowboys. And look what happens to those guys in the running back game when you end up on a team that doesn't use you. You could be a free agent out there in the wind looking for a team in 2 years.
Okay, so before we get to the big winners and losers in terms of teams, Locker retired today. It is not often you see a quarterback that young hanging him up.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. I totally forgot about it. Jake Locker at the University of Washington. Used to watch these games late night because it was always the last game on a Saturday, wondering why Steve Sarkisian had him as his quarterback, and also in the back of my head, why are all these people talking about him being a draft pick? He was one of the biggest prospects out of college that year. And you go back and you look at that class, it's been hit or miss like many of them are. But Locker, you guys could have came to me on the couch and I would have told you not to draft the kid. He didn't manage the offense well at Washington. He threw a lot of interceptions, and most of the time he was running around for his life. And people thought that when he got to the NFL, he was going to stop running around for his life and somehow settle down the quarterback and become a great passer. Well, guess what? It never happened. It just shows that sometimes in this modern era, even if you have a kid like Jake Locker that's built like a tight end, could have played linebacker and was very physical, if you're a dad out there right now, give him a football and tell him to start throwing it. Because if that hype machine gets a hold of your son, he'll make more money in 5 years than some people make in 3 lifetimes.
Oh, geez. And I forgot to mention this awesome stat I saw. We got to apologize to our listeners. This segment is just it's a cyclone. There's just so many moving pieces. But I thought that this was really interesting from my gal, Britt McHenry of ESPN, regarding the Revis deal. So Revis, now the highest paid at his position with $40 million guaranteed. Look across to Major League Baseball, where Max Scherzer is getting $210 million and Stanton is getting $325 million. Bo, get your kids some baseball gloves tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. It's that international game. Whenever you can go to Japan, Malaysia, and every little country in between, you are a part of that billion-dollar club. Bud Selig, now he's stepped down. He's moving on. That man grew baseball. They say baseball makes more money off TV than any of them. Their MLB.com, it's one of the most successful as far as all those go, NBA League Pass, NFL Ticket, the MLB.com is like the most successful viewership. There's more money made off that in sponsorship and deals that go on.
Yeah, those local TV deals.
Yeah, it's going – you got to think about this. There are people in little islands and all over the South Atlantic that are trying to watch these major league games because there's 7 guys on that field that came from their village. That's a big deal. Football is not crossed into that territory, and it doesn't look like we will for quite some time because we're not going into those places to get these players. And Ndamukong Suh, his mother raised him over here. He doesn't really have that connection with a village somewhere in South Africa where they're going to go in there and be like, we have to watch these games. It just isn't there. International soccer or football, baseball, even cricket, F1 drivers. You ever looked at that one? You want to see a scary list? Look at Formula One driver salaries. Those guys make more money in one racing season than some of these athletes make in a career combined. I think the guy who drove for Ferrari last year, he made over like $100 million just off Ferrari. That's not counting Michelin in the races he won. It's crazy.
Now, you make a good point about those small island countries loving their baseball, and the real loser in all of that is me. Bo, I was almost done with my pitcher smuggling submarine. I was about to depart to Cuba, and then all of a sudden they relax the embargo. Thanks, Obama. Come on, man.
Way to go. We can't get any love from that guy.
All right, so the big winners and losers in free agency up to this point, Bo. Let's start with the losers. I'm going to go 1B, the Niners, and 1A, the Eagles.
Yeah.
Now, for the Niners, it's a combination of bad trades, losing your great head coach, and all of a sudden star players hanging them up. For the Eagles, like you had mentioned, we just don't know what the hell is going on there. It seems like there's got to be something more than just seemingly some really bad trade decisions, but we don't know. But both of those teams right now, I mean, the Eagles, they're all set to get Frank Gore after they traded McCoy. Now, not so fast. So, geez, for an Eagles fan, it's a rough last few days. And same for the Niners, really.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm kind of have mixed feelings because I still need to see things develop. But for me, I'm going to have to go New England. I think this is the year where that formula where you can just really deal. We like you. We enjoyed your services. We had fun winning the championship. See you later at the party. That's not going to work. You have to have some sort of continuity with Tom Brady and familiar faces, or maybe the Pats are just preparing themselves for Tom Brady to go.
That's sort of the Patriot way.
No, and I think what I said earlier with the lineman, and you mentioned Wilfork, I think Wilfork could be that guy. Like we've always wondered, man, how did the Patriots do it? That's somebody that you kind of forget about, even though he's as wide as a Mack truck and the sun's blocked out when he's within 6 feet of you. You forget what Wilfork can do. And the fact that he's going to be dealt away, I think it hurts him. And this next one, it pains me to say this.
Say it.
Dallas. Dallas, you're in action. This is, okay, so if you're a political leader, if you're a CEO, if you're a tycoon of industry, there's only a few moments in the year where you really get to flex your muscle and show everybody, you know why I get to sit on a gold-plated toilet seat? Watch what I do this week. Jerry, the family, I'm not that impressed right now. You know, I give you guys praise. I say you're doing all the right things. I like Zach Martin. But right now, unless you know something about the draft that we all don't know, I just do not feel that confident in seeing pieces being changed to get us over that hump, get us to that NFC title game, get us to that Super Bowl. No confidence right now.
All right, let's get to the winners. We got to wrap this segment up because we have a guest coming up. But in terms of the two big winners in my eyes, number 2, and granted I might be a little biased, are my Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. Why, you ask? Well, we got a pretty good safety from the Raiders. That was a need. And we also got Jeremy Maclin, big-time, speedy playmaker. Him and DeAnthony Thomas lined up together. That's going to be a problem. Now, beyond that, beyond filling 2 needs, you also now allow the possibility to draft linemen. What have we been hammering this whole segment? That's what it takes to really build success for a long period of time. So if they're able to, instead of drafting a bunch of wide receivers whose game we don't really know how it'll translate to the next level, all of a sudden they can go after some big bodies, which I like.
Yeah, my biggest winner has to be the Green Bay Packers.
Really?
Green Bay, they're not going out and teaching people a playbook. They're just locking down people they had. They're making sure that the guys that Aaron Rodgers is comfortable around, they're going to be there. Cobb, Brian Beluga, to mention a few. That's what you want to see from a team. If Packers Nation, be happy. You guys got a good deal. My other one, this one's probably going to surprise you. I think Nada going to the Lions is the biggest deal of the offseason because you're going to put him in that locker room, and that locker room needs a leader like that. If we've watched Detroit over the past 4 or 5 seasons, whether it was Schwartz, whether it was Caldwell, we've all said it. What's going on over there? We had 2 suspensions by an offensive lineman veteran and a veteran defensive lineman in Sue with back-to-back weeks. I'm sorry, that just says to me no locker room leadership.
It's true. It's true.
You bring Nada into that locker room with Megatron, and you have a defensive captain and an offensive captain that can be respected and trusted, watch out for the Lions because, hey, the Cowboys just barely got bombed. Remember, there was a controversial play in Dallas that allowed the Cowboys to get by the Lions.
My big winner are the Seahawks for reasons I outlined earlier. Heck, man, maybe if you add Jimmy Graham to that power formation, you would have run the damn ball in the Super Bowl. Who knows? But I think that's going to be a scary offense. Defensively, I don't think that there are any huge holes there. So you take a good team, you add a great piece like Graham. Wow. And especially given the Niners losing, like the Seahawks, that division has to belong to them this next year.
This is what I have in my head. Everybody said this today. They put up the formations of Jimmy Graham and Gronkowski, where they will put all 4 receivers on one side of the field and put the tight ends on one side of the field. What's the biggest difference between those 2 teams that I just named? Russell Wilson's the quarterback of the new team Graham's on. Tom Brady and Drew Brees were the other ones.
Yeah.
When Tom Brady and Drew Brees are in the pocket, I know they could throw to any receiver and make him a threat. Russell Wilson, take away his primary and watch him run around like a chicken with his head cut off. That's what I think is going to happen.
Coming up on the show, we've got a great guest for you, Rictor Riolo. He was on Spike TV's $10 million Bigfoot bounty, and yes, we are going to talk a whole lot of Squatch. And a description you don't hear, well, ever. He's a gay Bigfoot hunter. So he's, I'm sure, going to have some very interesting perspective. He's coming up right here on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey, everybody. Sean here. Just wanted to thank you very much for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. However it is you're finding the show, whether it's on our website, seanandboshow.podomatic.com, iTunes, YouTube, or Funnel Cake Sports Radio. Regardless, we love you. One little thing, though, even if you don't use iTunes to access the show, it would mean a ton to Bo and I if you would please go on iTunes, search for the Sean and Bo Show, give us a rating and a review. Don't have the time to write out a full review? That's fine. Just click the stars. Give us a rating. It helps expose the show to a new audience. Again, go to iTunes and search the Sean and Bo Show. Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Loyal listeners, as you know, we don't just talk sports. We don't just talk entertainment. No, Bo and I love talking some Squatch.
Yeah, that's the real stuff we're here to discuss. We all know about sports, but man, I would love to hang out with the big guy one time.
Yeah, we're big Bigfoot fans, you could say, and that's sort of what makes this podcast unique. It's not something you hear about on sports talk radio or anything like that. And we're pleased to welcome to the show today Rictor Riolo, who has appeared on Spike TV's $10 million Bigfoot Bounty. He's also currently in the midst of a YouTube series called Bigfoot Nation that you can check out on YouTube, youtube.com/Rictor. He's also the host of Off the Rictor, an upcoming show that sort of parodies the paranormal, and After Hours with Rictor, where he interviews some of the big names in Bigfoot research. So we're now proud to bring to the show Rictor. Rictor, how you doing this evening?
Hey, guys, I'm doing great. And wow, what a wonderful introduction. You guys did me good. Thank you.
No problem at all. Well, let's start off with your big claim to fame, so to speak. You were on Spike TV's $10 million Bigfoot Bounty. That was like a couple of years ago, right?
It was actually over a year ago. It ended in February of last year.
And how did you get involved with that?
Well, you know, the casting company contacted everyone in the Bigfoot community. And a couple of my friends were contacted first. We were all a part of a group on Facebook called Team Taser. And they asked them, you know, who do you have in mind that would be great for the show? And my friends were like, oh, you got to talk to Rictor. And the casting director was like, why? And my friend said, well, he's gay. So of course, the casting people were like, you know, all up in my grill. Rictor, you're a gay man. Why do you like Bigfoot? And since I was put on the spot, The only thing I could come up with real quick was he's big and hairy.
There you go.
And that's what did it. That's what signed the deal, you know? So
let's talk about that for a minute, because that's certainly something unique you don't hear too often in the Bigfoot researching and Bigfoot hunting world, a gay man that's interested in Bigfoot. Curious, have you gotten any backlash from fellow Bigfooters out there regarding your sexual orientation?
Absolutely, and on a daily basis. Now, I don't know if you gentlemen are aware of Renee Holland. She is also on Finding Bigfoot. She's been on that show on Animal Planet for the past 5 years. She is an out lesbian, but she doesn't use her sexuality to help her in any shape or form. You know what I mean? And I respect her for that. Me, however, I will use the gay card in every way, shape, or form. Because my entire life I have been put down because of it. Yes. And now I get on a Bigfoot show because of the fact that I'm a gay man. Absolutely. Bring it. Now that attitude has really angered quite a few serious Bigfoot researchers who've been boots on the ground for the past 40 years. How dare a homosexual shove his sexuality down our Bigfoot throats? I get that all the time.
How disappointed they would be to find out that there may be a few homosexual Bigfoots out there. It would just shock them.
You know, in the animal kingdom, homosexuality isn't a sexual preference. It's just being. You know, animals don't have sexual hang-ups like humans do. Look at the little gay penguin dads.
That's why I always say I grew up in a rural setting, and it's very interesting because I think coming from the country, and you see a lot of the people that lead the anti-gay, parades and things like that, they tend to be from those areas. But growing up on a farm, it was never a question. My brother, he's been out for years, and he's gay, lives in Atlanta. You grow up on a farm, like you said, animals don't have a preference, and we're animals.
Right. But here's the best thing, guys, Bo. I don't dress and act like a typical West Hollywood queen.
Okay.
I wear a leather jacket. I wear jeans. I go Bigfooting. I have a goatee. I have a shaved head. People, when they meet me, are expecting this big, giant, radical queen waving a flag, and I'm not necessarily like that.
I was going to ask you about that, because you're wearing almost like a biker leather jacket, hiking up a mountain in search for Bigfoot on the Spike show. Is that is that typical attire for your Bigfoot adventures?
That is my attire.
All right.
When Spike, asked me to send me photos of how I look naturally, it was me in my jeans, t-shirt, and leather jacket, and they were perfect.
And having played college football, if you didn't know, I know it's the first time you talked to us on the show. Gay can also be 6'5", 330 pounds from Houston, Texas, as one of my fellow linemen were. He has a partner and adopted children, lives in Texas now. So it comes in all forms, and there are some of us out there that are willing to accept and not think that things need to be the way that they used to be. I understand where you're coming from, buddy.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah.
So let's talk about the Spike TV show a little bit more. Rictor, they found Bigfoot at the end of the show, right?
No. What? No, they didn't. And unfortunately, my partner and I, we were eliminated before the finale, and we had found a really impressive stick structure. Now, stick structures, gentlemen, are not proof that they're made by Sasquatch. Okay. They are unusual formations made in the forest of trees being placed together in a formation that is almost like a teepee, but not quite. And it's been long said that Sasquatch supposedly makes these, and we found one up by the Klickitat River in Oregon. Very impressive. It was featured on the show. And one of the final two finalists, his name is Michael Merchant, found a stick sticking in the ground. Now, dude, that is... What, a stick? That's your evidence?
Yeah.
We found a whole stick structure, and you're bringing in the finale a stick in the mud? Girl, I don't think so.
Wow.
So the way this show worked, our listeners out there who haven't seen it, and I believe all the episodes are online on Spike's website if you want to go check it out. But it's kind of like Finding Bigfoot meets Survivor. Is that a fair comparison?
Yes. Touch of Survivor, touch of Big Brother, and definitely Finding. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great metaphor.
And I've seen these stick structures before. We're broadcasting here in Albuquerque. I've seen them down by the river, but I was told that they're hobo nests. Basically, these guys, like, they build it looks like a bird's nest with sticks, and then you throw a tarp over it, and all of a sudden you have some structure. So maybe Bigfoot taking notes from the local homeless population here in Albuquerque. It's possible.
You know what? You say that, and I have often watched these documentaries, and these people go out in the woods and they try to make these stick structures. And I was under the impression, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, man either needs to have multiple people or tools to make these stick structures that the researchers claim actually belong to Bigfoot because of the sheer size and the branches and the trees that they're using. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
You're correct, and how remote they are.
Okay.
And how across the entire Pacific Northwest. There's no tarps being found by these stick structures. And if you look on the ground to see where there could be possible breakage, from the trees being snapped from snowfall, that's a very good theory that the snow could, in storms, force these trees to snap and to fall onto each other. That's very, possible. But you know what? There's no breakage that I found. So these logs and giant branches were placed and woven in such an intricate way. It had been done by something with hands. Okay. Not snowfall, and there was no tarp, there was no homeless litter, because I am fully aware of the homeless situation in Southern California. That's where I was raised, and they are not the cleanest of people. I don't want to get any hate or flack for that, but they tend to be litter bugs, and around the stick structures that I have seen, there hasn't been litter. So that puts things into perspective. Okay, well, is it a homeless person doing that? Is it snowfall? Is it a mythical creature called Bigfoot? I don't know.
So let's talk a little bit about your background. When did you first get into Bigfooting? And, surely you were on some Bigfoot expeditions before the TV show, right?
Oh, Sean, get this. Spike TV popped my Bigfoot cherry. I never went on a Bigfoot expedition until I had the cameras on me.
Really?
Now, wow. I had the opportunity to go out, but during the casting phase of the show, they liked the fact that I'm the city boy that's book smart about Bigfoot that's never stepped out in the forest. And that was entirely true. Now, I had gone camping before, but it was never Bigfooting. I wasn't like in Washington or Oregon or Northern California. I was, camping alongside a river with friends. So I had to save myself for the network, which I did. And I'm like a good girl should. And boom. So that was my first time Bigfooting. However, I have always been a Bigfoot enthusiast ever since I was a child when I saw that Patterson-Gimlin footage, that infamous footage from 1967. So I have been a freak for Bigfoot ever since. However, boys, I will say this. I was always scared of Bigfoot. In fact, I would hide under my blankets when I was a child. And being a Bigfooter now, it's like conquering my fear. I'm not scared of Bigfoot. However, I have been scared out in the woods a couple times, but it doesn't scare me like it used to. Okay. So it's like, overcoming my fears.
No, I
becoming
like that.
A man.
I could see, Hollywood producers wanting to put you out there to try and maybe get the city boy out of his element and see if they can get some cool footage. I understand that now. It totally makes sense. And I have to say the thing that turned me on the Bigfoot was Harry and the Hendersons. That has to be one of my.
Harry and the Hendersons was very cute.
Yes, it was. It was just
very cute.
One of those movies, and as I grew into adult, I got into all the other stuff. But I have to ask you this. I see Bigfoot pop up everywhere. You get on the internet and you type in Bigfoot sightings. They're in every corner of this country. Is there one single species of Bigfoot that can just survive in different regions, or if we do discover them, and when we do? Are we going to find out that there's these multiple species that all have their own characteristics and traits?
I'm glad you brought that up, Bo, because I have a couple of theories on this. Now, number one, gentlemen, there's no such thing as a Bigfoot expert. The species is not proven to be real. There are researchers that have been on the field a long time. They have a lot of information. However, it's all based on theory because there's been no scientific evidence, period, that's been accepted by mainstream science. So therefore, based on theory alone, I myself think, okay, so look at Patterson-Gimlin's footage of Patty. It's big, it's fat, it's female, it's huge. Then you look at the skunk ape descriptions. There's skinny, it's lanky, looks more like an orangutan, has reddish, longish hair. Then you have supposedly the ruggaroo in Louisiana, which is kind of like a werewolf type of looking thing, very gnarly looking and gangly, and you've heard that description. Sure, it's like a monster. So think about their habitat and their environment. The Pacific Northwest, there's an abundance of food and water, and they're going to be bigger. In the South, where the skunk ape is and the ruggaroo, they're competing with mosquitoes and alligators and a harsh element that's totally different than the Pacific Northwest. So therefore, the species would differ and have branched away from each other. That makes perfect sense to me, but there's no evidence to back that up.
No.
We're talking to Rictor Riolo. You can follow him on Twitter at Rictor_Riolo, Riolo. On Twitter again. He was on Spike's $10 million Bigfoot Bounty and is also currently on the Bigfoot Nation original YouTube series, which you can check out on youtube.com/Rictor. Rictor, why do all these shows always go out looking for Bigfoot with a big group of individuals? I mean, it would seem to me like if he was going to be discovered by a guy with a camera, it would be like the Gimlin footage where it was just a couple of guys on horseback. Do you think that that's a detriment to the search for Bigfoot, that all these shows are always kind of going after him with all these camera crews, lights, smokers, etc.?
I think you've brought up an excellent point. TV is TV, and they want the entertainment value. So if you have two gentlemen who have very dry personalities, it's going to be boring. People aren't going to tune in. But if you have a group of people, you're going to have some personalities that might clash and be good for TV. So that answers that. However, out there in the field, I will say this. My friend Derek Randalls, who's part of the Olympic Project up in Washington, very serious researcher, his best encounters have been by himself or with another individual. I don't know too many people that have had, look at Justin Smea, supposedly the Bigfoot killer. He was with a buddy and they were up in the Sierras and he supposedly shot a Sasquatch, 2 people. Let's see, offhand, Stacy Brown, my co-star from Bigfoot Bounty, his father filmed allegedly a skunk ape on FLIR. It was just the 2 of them, you know? So I think the more humans out there will send Bigfoot away, and the less humans might bring him in because they're not going to be scared. They're not going to be intimidated by a tremendous human presence.
No, that makes a lot of sense now, you know, and I'm sitting here, I had this question all geared up and I had to kind of make some changes to it because I just want to know, you were on a big show like Spike and you see these episodes of the Monster Quest on the History Channel and Discovery Channel's done their own stories. Does it help or hurt guys like you and me and Sean who we believe he's out there and we want awareness, but is this this Hollywood production that's going on, is that the wrong type of awareness?
I'm just thankful that there are shows out there that are willing to do this. Granted, some are a little extreme. You know, there's that one show that's on TV right now where they want to go out and kill Bigfoot. Good luck. You know, I think Bigfoot would kill you
Have
first.
fun.
Yeah, and please don't be like Justin. Bring in a body if you do get one. You know, so I think any kind of awareness over something like this is good. Look at UFOs and Loch Ness Monster. You know, the Loch Ness Monster does not get as much publicity as Bigfoot does.
No.
And UFOs, I think the UFO community is much bigger than the Sasquatch community. However, the 2 of them are very ongoing and engaging with armchair Bigfooters and actual researchers. So I think it's yin and yang. You know, there's a positive and negative effect. I think here's where the negative effect comes in, gentlemen. You're going to have people that see Harry and the Hendersons and think, oh, Bigfoot is your friend. And they're going to go out there and start feeding wild animals thinking, oh, we're baiting Bigfoot. No, you're feeding a wild animal. You're endangering other campers and people that are going to come into that area. Chances are you're feeding bears and raccoons and mountain lions before you're feeding a mythical 8-foot-tall creature.
Yeah.
That segues into my question perfectly for you. One of the big kind of, I wouldn't call it an objection, but certainly Bigfoot detractors always point to the fact that there's never been a Bigfoot body discovered. You know, like the thinking goes, if Bigfoot has been around for a long time, then obviously at some point a Bigfoot would die and somebody would come across a carcass, right? Well, as somebody that's been out there in the wild searching for Bigfoot, how many, say, bear carcasses have you come across? It's pretty rare, right?
Absolutely. The forest is remarkable at devouring its deceased.
Yeah.
So, you know, bones do not last out in the forest. But gentlemen, I used to laugh and tee-hee at the whole conspiracy theory. Oh, stop. The government's got bigger problems right now, like Hillary Clinton and her email troubles, But when I was up in the Sierras and we were confronted with the Fish and Game and forest rangers, I took the opportunity to ask these gentlemen some direct questions, and their answers surprised me. And so based on how caliber they were and forward with, well, if you guys were to shoot something, we would take it. I'm like, why? It's not listed as a protected animal. He's like, no, but it's an unlisted animal being shot and killed on national land. Therefore, we would come and confiscate it. I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do then? Well, then we'll have someone do a DNA test to prove that it's not a human. All right, now, who do you have that is qualified to do such a remarkable test of a species that's been yet to be truly discovered by science? Oh, well, we'll cover that bridge when we will cross that bridge when we get to it.
Rictor, trust me, Bo is qualified, man. You should see his collection of beakers and graduated cylinders over here. The man is a bona fide scientist.
I'm ready.
That's awesome. Right on.
Now,
yes.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you, it seems to me like as technology gets more advanced, things like drones, things like the improvement of heat signature devices like FLIR and stuff like that, that it's going to become a little bit easier perhaps to find Bigfoot. Do you think that drones are going to be the final way that we discover Bigfoot, or do you think it's going to be by a guy out in the woods with a camera?
I think a drone is like taking an air horn in the middle of forest and blowing it. Okay, because those things make noise. It is not a natural sound. Drones make noise. And if these creatures are truly real, they're going to be in tune to their environment and unusual human-made sounds. So that being said, drones is going to be a detriment. I do not believe they're going to help prove Bigfoot's real. However, FLIR, my buddy Bart Coutinho, filmed 3 individuals of their Bigfoot. We don't know, but there was some measurements taken and up there in the Sierras, and they could quite possibly be Sasquatch. I do think that the FLIR technology is what's going to bring in evidence. But gentlemen, just because you have the most amazing FLIR footage of a Sasquatch doesn't prove it's real.
Sure.
You need the body, you need the blood, you need the DNA.
So
that's the problem.
We have some footage that came out a couple of weeks ago that we wanted to ask you about. But before we get to that, how much do you subscribe to some of the standard Bigfoot theories that, Bigfoot, Sasquatches like knocking in the night on wood? Do you think that that's legitimate, or do you think that's something that researchers kind of made up?
I don't know the answer to that question. I have experienced wood knocks out in the woods, out in the middle of nowhere before. It's creepy. It's interesting. It makes your hair on the back of your neck stand on end. Is it a woodpecker? Is it a deer, brushing its antlers up against the tree? It could be anything. And then until we have footage, of something doing that, it's all going to be theory. Wood knocks, supposedly Bigfoot kills and eats deer. Matt Moneymaker propagated that story about the Amish, supposedly in Pennsylvania, had witnessed a deer being taken by a Sasquatch. So now the entire Bigfoot community, Bigfoot eats deer. Well, Bigfoot, if it's truly real, is omnivorous. It's going to eat whatever it comes upon. Deer, humans, So, Bo, I think, Bigfoot might not be your friend like you might think with Harry and the Hendersons, dude. It's the apex predator.
If you've heard the show, you know that I just want to perform a taste test on Bigfoot. Because
something that moves,
dirty. Something. All right. So before we get too off task here, I have to bring this up, and I know you're going to have your feelings about it, being with your sexuality and everything. I just know that in this country, everybody sells it as the greatest country known to man on the face of the earth. I don't truly believe that. We had slaves less than 200 years ago. But all that aside, there are people in our government who wear religious bands on their chests to let us all know where they come from, what they believe. Do you believe, like I do, the reason our government is not exposing this animal is because scientists have already told them that this is the missing link? Just like there's rooms in the Vatican we don't go in, supposedly chapters of the Bible that they don't let us see. Is this the missing link?
That is a very, very valid argument. And because of my interaction with Fish and Game and the Forestry Service up in California, I now think that's true. Before then, I kind of laughed at that. Haha, yeah, whatever. Conspiracy theory. Okay. Did we land on the moon? Did we not? But after having engaged with those gentlemen up there and asking them those direct questions and them giving me serious as a heart attack answers and not laughing at me, I do think there is a strong possibility that these things, if real, would be a tremendous pain in the butt for the religious institutions, because if these things are real, then they have a form of language, even though it's very basic and primitive. If you heard the Sierra Sounds by Ron Moorhead and the late Al Berry, that's a very interesting listening, that's been recorded from the early 70s by Sonora. Have you gentlemen heard them, the recordings?
It's called, I think I did it a while ago on YouTube. It's just audio, right?
It's just audio, and it's been affectionately called samurai chatter.
Yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah. If that's true, and if these things do have that kind of a language, then wow, does that pose a serious threat against the religious institutions? However, gentlemen, humans are the bigger threat against religious institutions.
Yes.
Now with gay marriage happening, the Mormon Church with Proposition 8 lost. How many millions of dollars did they put into the state of California to keep gays and lesbians from getting married? So I think humans are a bigger threat to church foundations than a legendary creature.
When I get into these arguments with friends in the garage drinking beer and I'm telling them, no, it's a conspiracy, that's why you don't know about these things, I bring this up. After 9/11, they have all these commissions investigating terrorist possible threats. They found out that there were more religious sectors of origin in the United States soil within our government that posed more of a threat than any Muslim entity ever did. Because they have meetings. We know they proudly go to the same churches and say we're voting for this guy because he believes what we believe. That's way more dangerous than a bunch of guys in the Middle East.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where you two guys are going with this last tangent, but what I got out of it is that the Amish community in Pennsylvania is harboring Bigfoot to hunt deer with.
Yes.
It's pretty close, right?
But you know what, guys? I don't know how we're doing on time. I just want to say real quick. Let's say Sean and Bo found and proved Bigfoot is real. It would be on the news for 2 seconds, because then they have to jump right into Kim Kardashian's new blonde hairstyle. And Neil Patrick Harris was in his underwear at the Academy Awards.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So, Bigfoot people think, oh, it's going to be the greatest discovery of our lives. No, the media is going to wash right over it.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, before we let you get out of here, I definitely wanted to ask you about this footage because I thought it was quite interesting.
Okay. All right, I've got the footage. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, it happened in American Fork Canyon near Tibble Fork Reservoir in Utah. Just to give our listeners a brief description, and we'll put this footage up on our Twitter at Sean and Bo Show. But basically, it shows a guy with a camera coming over a snowy ridge, looking towards a tree-lined area. He's kind of panning the camera left to right, looking for a figure. I can imagine that he had seen it and wanted to capture it on film. And all of a sudden, we see a figure emerge from the tree line. And it's awfully interesting, Rictor. I don't know what it looks like to you, but that doesn't look like a bear.
No, it is not a bear. I have the YouTube link frozen at the 1 minute 7 second mark, and the arm. You can see the arm, and from what I have been told by many Bigfoot eyewitnesses, the arms are very long. Mm-hmm. And in this instance, the arm is human-shaped. It is not long. It is not at the knees. Like the Patterson-Gimlin footage, Patty, her arms are to the knees. This creature's arms are just past the waist. I'm thinking it's a human being. But you know what? I wasn't there. I'm just judging this based on what I know from other eyewitnesses. Could be wrong, but I'm thinking that, yeah, it's not a bear, but I don't think it's a Bigfoot either, just based on the arm length.
I would agree with you. I think probably if I was to speculate on what we're seeing, it's probably guy in Bigfoot costume. I don't think it looks like any easily identifiable animal that would be in the wild in Utah. So I think that's probably likely. Although, I've said this before when we've analyzed other videos that show purported footage. One thing that always kind of makes me kind of doubtful is whenever it's like a little too good to be true. Like whenever the supposed Bigfoot that we're seeing in a video is dead center in the frame and clearly visible for a fraction of a second. It just kind of seems a little questionable.
Oh, absolutely. So far, gentlemen, to this day, the Patterson-Gimlin footage is by far the best and believable, just because of the size and the arm length, the head. The head is positioned on its shoulders without a neck. There's no neck with Patty when she turns her head. So how many humans have no neck?
Bo.
You know what I mean?
Bo does.
Yeah.
Well, he's Rictor Riolo. You can follow him on Twitter at Rictor, RICTOR _Riolo, RIOLO. Rictor, it's been a pleasure talking Bigfoot with you. And please, when you find him, we want to be among the first to know, buddy.
Absolutely, gentlemen. This was great. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks so much, Rictor. Well, Bo, before we wrap up shop on this episode of the Sean and Bo Show, we're going to finish the show with some sad news, Bo. I know this is going to touch you right to your soul.
All right.
Wendell D. Middlebrooks. I don't know if that name means anything to you, but you've worked this guy's commercial job in the past. This was the Miller High Life spokesman. The guy with the dolly that was stocking beers.
Yes.
He passed away today, age of 36 years
Oh,
old.
my goodness.
That's a damn shame.
Now, he is a great one. Golly, his whole career was built off of that, and he ended up doing some movies and TV shows.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's way, way too young to die. So we will tip and cheers a Miller High Life to Wendell. For the rest of y'all, thank you very much for listening. I'm Sean O'Donnell, joined as always by my co-host Bo Greer, reminding you, tip your pizza man.